This is an excerpt of a recent PowerUp webinar looking at compression basics in Adobe Media Encoder. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. In this excerpt, I'll show you how to optimize preference settings. Before we start the actual compression, I want to talk about some preference settings, and this is a big one right here where it says renderer. In the past, OpenCL was the preferred setting. For current systems, you want to set this to metal. This will improve the speed with which Adobe Media Encoder is able to compress your files. OpenCL for older systems, metal for newer systems. But there's a couple of other preferences I want us to pay attention to. If we go up to Media Encoder, go down to Preferences, and start with the Memory tab. Under Memory, we talked about this last week with Premiere. You want to reserve a small amount of memory for other applications. I've got 32 gig on this system. It's a 27-inch iMac. And I have 4 gig reserved for the operating system and for other applications. That's because Adobe really leverages your RAM, and you want to give it as much RAM as you can. This setting, once set, will apply across all Adobe applications, and I recommend you put it to 3 or 4. When you quit the application, that extra memory gets returned back to your system, so it's only in use when Adobe has got an actively running application. Next is under General. This one is really important. Enable parallel encoding. We can apply multiple compression settings to the same piece of media. What parallel encoding allows is that it will play that source file once and compress all the derivations you need from it that one time. This saves a ton of time if you're applying multiple compression settings to the same file. It should be on by default, but you want to make sure that it's also checked on in your system. This is also where you can set the renderer. In case you forget here, you can set it down here. The other thing is this one, specify output file destination. This is actually a big deal. Let me illustrate why. By default, Media Encoder will store your compressed files in the same location as your source file. The problem is I store source files in a lot of different places, and I can never keep track of where that source file is stored after more than a day or two. So what I've done, I'm going to click OK here and come back to that. What I've done is on my second drive, I've created a folder called Compressed Files. I created that. Then I set the Compressed Files folder as my default location, so every file that I compress always shows up in the same spot. By going to this folder, if the file I want is there, it means I've compressed it. If the file I want is not there, it means I haven't compressed it. How? By going back to this preference setting. Preferences, and we'll check Specify Output File Destination. Click the Browse button, go to your second drive, which is where I store all of my media files, select Compressed Files and choose. And now it's stored in Volumes, second drive, Compressed Files folder, and every file will be stored in the same spot, and click OK. This has been an excerpt of a recent PowerUp webinar looking at compression basics inside Adobe Media Encoder. For the complete version of this online training, please visit our store at larryjordan.com/store and look for Webinar 249. By the way, membership is a great value when you need to stretch your training dollars. Membership in our video training library saves you money and time. You can access all of our videos for a low monthly price of only $19.99. That's more than 1,900 movies, hundreds of hours, all on a wide variety of subjects. Plus, premium members can download practice media and projects. Our training covers Apple and Adobe software. We update it several times each month. And for more information, visit larryjordan.com/membership. And thanks.